Hey guys, today we are going to be making a cappuccino. I'm going to show you the steps and the process and give you some tips and tricks along the way. So let's get started. So we're going to take our portafilter and we want this to be clean, dry, and also hot, straight out of the espresso machine. So I'm just going to take a clean towel and dry it out and make sure there's no coffee residue or water, and you want to make sure it's hot to the touch. So we want to weigh out the coffee that we are going to put into the portafilter before we pull the shot. And with this particular espresso machine, it comes with a dosing funnel. So I'm just going to stick that right on there. I'm going to zero this out with the dosing funnel on it, and we can dose straight into the portafilter. All right, so a key here is you want to kind of shimmy around the coffee so it's nice and level. And we're also going to make sure that it dosed out the correct amount. I'm shooting for 16 grams. Okay, so it dosed a little over, which is fine. We're going to take a clean spoon and we're just going to scoop a little bit out. So we want to take care that we're not creating too much of a hole while we scoop out the coffee, because we want to make sure that it's nice and level, so that when we go to brew the coffee, we have a nice even extraction. All right, now that we have 16 grams in, we're going to kind of give it a nice tap so that it's nice and level. And then we're going to take off the dosing funnel. And we're going to use what's called a WDT tool. This is a great tool for just being able to make sure that we break up any clumps that have formed from grinding the coffee. Most good grinders is going to distribute the grinds pretty evenly, but this tool is a great way to just fix any imperfections. So what we do is you put it all the way to the bottom where it's touching the bottom of the basket, and then you're just going to gently make circles going along the edge. And then as you make that one first circle, you're going to raise up to where you're just barely touching the top so that it's nice, evenly distributed, broken up. And then we're going to do what's called a vertical collapse. All we're doing is just pressing down, tapping the portafilter to make sure that we're getting rid of any air pockets, and then we're ready to tamp. We're just going to, as evenly as possible, compress the coffee down. So we're getting rid of any air pockets, and we're compressing the coffee as level as possible, straight down, until all you feel is resistance and no more compression. And you can give this a little twist as well, just to make sure if there's any loose grounds of coffee, they're kind of incorporated in. So once we brush off all the sides and there's no more grinds along the edges, you're good to go. Once the shot is pulled, we're ready to steam our milk. So there are two phases to steaming milk. There is the aerating phase and the vortexing phase. But before we steam the milk, we want to make sure that we purge our steam wand. So we're just going to make sure that we run some steam through so it gets rid of any water that may be trapped in the tip. And most importantly, that there's no milk residue inside the tip of the steam wand or on the outside. So we just want to take a damp cloth and make sure it's wiped clean. Once that's done, we're ready to steam our milk. So we're going to take it and we're going to make sure that the spout is resting against the steam wand, so the steam wand can remain still while being rested against the spout of the pitcher. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to plunge the steam wand, the tip of it, right in the middle of the milk, and then tilt it to the left or to the right. So, and like I said, there's the aerating phase and then the vortexing phase. So at the very beginning, we want to hear little ripping paper sounds of the air being injected. So we're injecting bubbles so that we're getting that foam texture that we want, and then we're going to slightly raise our pitcher up so that we don't add any more air that we can audibly hear, but we're vortexing it so the steam is whipping the milk around, getting rid of any big bubbles and turning them into micro bubbles, and it's also incorporating the foam into the rest of the milk as it's heating up so that we get that good, silky, homogeneous texture that we want. So just nice little ripping paper sounds. And every steam wand is different depending on the espresso machine that you use. But basically you want to aerate it just very lightly until it starts getting warm to the touch. That's when you raise it up ever so slightly, and you get that whirlpool of milk vortex. And then we're going to turn it off when it's hot to the touch, but not too hot, where you can comfortably hold it, but it's still very hot. So we're going to clean our steam wand. The great thing about this espresso machine is it actually purges it for you. There's a few bubbles, so all we have to do is just lightly tap until we kind of pop those out. And then you want to swirl your milk just to make sure that the foam in the steamed milk is rightly incorporated. And then our espresso needs a good stir to break up that crema so that it's nice and pretty when we pour it. Okay, now for latte art, there's a few steps. The first step is creating a base layer. So we're going to start up kind of high, and we're just going to pour nice and gently until about 3/4 of the way is full. Then we're going to drop down and get as close to the surface as possible, and then pour, raise up, pour through. So your final milk texture should have a nice gloss to it, shiny, no bubbles, and then with practice, your latte art is only going to get better, and that's how you make a cappuccino.